Gettysburg, which is acre for acre, known as the most haunted small town in America.
51,000 casualties in those 3 days.
Young men never wanted to fight nor die here, let alone remain here for eternity.
Both sides knew what was on the line. Basically, what you have is the perfect storm for creating ghosts. And that's what Gettysburg was for those 3 days, and since.
The creepy side of America's haunted Gettysburg Miniseries. Part 1.
Welcome to the creepy side of America. I am Dan Kosloski, and joining me this evening, co-host Kerry Kearns. Kerry, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Dan. It's great to be here.
Well, thanks for joining me. This is great to have you as a co-host on the creepy side of America.
Well, I love getting spooked, so this is perfect.
This is perfect, because tonight we're starting our mini-series on haunted Gettysburg. Kerry, what do we have in store for them?
I would say a lot of thrills and chills. I mean, you know the history of Gettysburg, but we get to know the ghosts of Gettysburg, and some of them are quite friendly, I would say.
I would say, yes. And, you know, it's kind of like a creepier side look at the town.
Yeah.
And what better time to do it than the anniversary of the battle? It's 161 years since the Battle of Gettysburg. It was fought right today, July 1st, the kickoff of our show, and it ran right through July 3rd. Before we get started with tonight's episode, I'd just like to remind all of our listeners, if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe, or follow The Creepy Side of America on whichever podcast platform that you listen to us on.
And be sure to follow The Creepy Side of America on Facebook for all the latest show information.
Okay, enough of that. Enough of the information. Let's get right into the episode, because we have some great guests in store.
We really do.
Tonight, we'll be talking about the Jenny Wade House and also the orphanage in Gettysburg.
And so our first guests this evening are from the Ghostly Images of Gettysburg. We have Christina Rowand and Christy Purdul. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you both for having us.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thanks
Absolutely.
for joining us.
Oh, you're quite welcome. We absolutely love to talk about Gettysburg, which is acre for acre, known as the most haunted small town in America. Also known worldwide because obviously the paranormal activity and also that little battle you may have heard of. It was July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of 1863.
Yeah, I think I might have heard a couple of things about it.
Yes, yes. Within a matter of a few days, 160,000 troops will descend upon this population. How will they survive it? They wind up going into their cellars by and large. By the end of this 3-day bloodbath, there will be 52,000 casualties. That's missing, wounded, or dead. I always encourage my guests as they are admiring the beauty of our battlefields in this town to picture it littered with the bodies of 10,000 dead soldiers, but anywhere between 4,000 and 6,000 dead horses and mules.
Yeah, it's probably as far as you could see then, just dead bodies at that time.
Absolutely. They were literally everywhere. One of the most famous quotes I've heard of the aftermath is, you know, the stories of the paranormal were very frightening, but the gruesome reality of the aftermath of this battle is worse than any horror movie you can imagine. These bodies, obviously it's July, the heat does not bode well for these bodies.
A little stinky.
If you think they will be buried at a proper depth of 6 feet, you're not even in the realm. Average depth of a grave was 12 inches.
Oof.
I could tell you a lot more, but I don't want to keep you up at night. I think you get the idea
Yeah, it's probably
of
a good
what's
idea.
going on here. To this very day, there are at least, and this is according to National Park Service, 800 to 1,200 bodies that are unaccounted for. Remember, these young men never wanted to fight nor die here, let alone remain here for eternity, which has created all of these hauntings that we are so famous for. One of our houses is the Jenny Wade house. It is extremely famous because the 20-year-old Jenny Wade will be the only civilian to be killed during the Battle of Gettysburg. What will happen? It's very interesting because Jenny never lived at the Jenny Wade house. She will, however, die there. Her sister Georgia and her husband rent one side. It was something like a modern-day duplex.
That's something I never knew, that Jenny never lived at the Jenny Wade house.
She did indeed not. Her sister Georgia has just given birth on the 26th of June to her first baby. Difficult delivery, the doctor will tell her she must remain in bed for 10 days. How are they to know what was going to happen beginning the first day of July? Georgia and her mother Mary will become trapped with that newborn in the house. Jenny, as I said, is at their home. With her is her 8-year-old brother Harry and a 6-year-old little boy who cannot walk, who is in their care. She's going to become very afraid because the Confederates will begin to overtake the town on that first day. What they're doing is trying to dislodge the Union soldiers entrenched on the other side of the house on what is the high ground, Cemetery Hill. Jenny becomes very afraid. More and more soldiers are coming. The firing is becoming more frequent. She will make a run for that house for 2 reasons: safety and to help her sister with the baby. She will make it there safely. Can you guess how many times Jenny and her mother's home, right in the middle of town, right in the middle of the Confederates, will receive gunfire?
Oh, geez. 10 times.
Jenny Wade, 10 times. Average guess is 1,000 because Jenny Wade house still bears the marks of over 150 bullets. Their home will receive none. And she comes here for safety. And that's where the irony begins in this tale. So Jenny will spend her time there making dough, which the original dough tray is still in the house. She'll be making dough that her mother will bake into bread and biscuits for the hot, hungry, and tired Union soldiers who are brave enough to come to that door. She'll wear a path back and forth from the well because she will draw so much water. On the second day, something very frightening is going to happen. As Jenny is making dough, suddenly there'll be a loud crash. That house will shake to its very foundation when a 10-pound parrot shell hits the upstairs of the house. Mercifully, it did not explode. Then comes the third day. Begins like every other day does for Jenny. She's going to read from the scriptures. But this day's different. Her readings are all about death and sadness. Her sister Georgia is going to yell from her bed, which is in the parlor, by the way, "Mama, make her stop." Jenny will stop. She's going to walk right in and say these very words to her sister: "If anyone should be killed in this house today, I hope it is me, because Georgia, you have that new baby." Jenny will turn, walk around an interior door that her mother Mary had placed in a position thinking it would keep her daughter safe. Jenny goes back to work at the dough tray at approximately 8:30 in the morning. A sharpshooter's bullet will enter the front door. It will go through this interior door, enter through Jenny's left shoulder blade, pierce her heart. She'll be dead before she hits that floor, again at age 20. Her mother doesn't hear any of this. She turns and sees her daughter on the floor. She knows she has fainted again. She goes to revive her. That's when she sees the blood begin to rush across the floor, and she knows what has happened. Belief is she will go into shock because she's very calmly going to go in and say, Georgia, your sister is dead. Later in their memoirs, they're going to write that that's a sight that will haunt them the rest of their days. You're used to seeing soldiers dead in the field, but not a beautiful 20-year-old girl.
And being that young, they always say a haunting starts from unfinished business. I'm sure this just screams haunting right here.
Yes, exactly. That plays a big role in all of this. Now, believe it or not, we have a few dominant spirits in that home. We don't see Jenny too much, no matter what you may hear. Georgia is our spirit that occupies the kitchen area and that parlor area where her bed was. Why? Guilt. There's a rocking chair in the parlor where Georgia laid with that baby. To this very day, it is not unusual to see that go very slowly into motion. Can't tell you how many tours I have had my guests say, get sick to their stomach. They feel faint. I've had people had to leave that house. When I first started touring, I thought I was a horrible tour guide because they're leaving right when I get in that house. And no, some of them would wait and tell me why they had left. We also have a mirror that hangs over George's bed. I always tell people to pay close attention to the mirrors in that house, for you know not who or what may be staring back out at you. We have one in particular. As you go upstairs, the glass predates the Civil War. It's where we see the lady in black. She's a widow. She wears the full mourning veil. When you die, your spirit leaves the body and goes to the light. They would cover their mirrors with black crepe cloth so that the spirit would not be confused by the shimmering of the mirror. The belief is that mirrors have now become portals because we no longer observe that tradition. I cannot even begin to tell you the photographs we get from those mirrors. It is constant.
Does it seem to be concentrated on one mirror in the house, or is there a few mirrors throughout the house?
No, it's pretty much every mirror in the house.
So over the years giving tours at the Jenny Wade house, what is some of the, or at least one story that really stuck with you that either happened to you guys during the tour or maybe a guest, maybe you heard of?
Oh, Chris had a photo thrown at him.
Yes, I was just going to say. You know, I'm a historian and was a skeptic. That ended about my third tour.
Oh, that ended early then, huh?
Oh, very early, very early. However, the experience occurred last June. I will never forget it. Here's what happened. Some of your listeners may have also heard of the Soldiers Homestead Orphanage, which is kind of cat-a-corner to the Jenny Wade house. They had done some remodeling. They took down 6 layers of plaster to expose the original brickwork in the dining room. there were some antique pictures hanging on the walls. I took what was salvageable, kept it, thinking I could use it. Well, it turned out there was the perfect spot in the Jenny Wade house. It was a Friday last June. I myself went and hung a picture of Christ the Redeemer. It's of the period, gorgeous piece. It is not on a nail. It's on what looks like a small spike. Being it is a true antique, I made sure that it was on there, very securely. That evening, I have a tour. I just so happen to be standing. I always stand towards the back near the windows so that my group can enter the second bedroom. About 3 feet from me is Christ the Redeemer on my right. Talking about the stories. All of a sudden, that doesn't fall off the wall. It arcs up in front of me, and this is absolutely the truth. It lands feet. It cleared me, goes over the head of a guest beside me, and lands on the floor.
Wow.
I am always one to debunk. I've got nothing. I am rarely speechless. There were no words. Everybody thinks it would be really amazing to have a paranormal experience until you have one to that extent. My belief is we know the spirits do not like change. Anytime we do any work on our houses, it becomes even more active. We see that year after year. I think someone didn't like that particular picture and decided to toss it right off the wall. Oh, and by the way, someone in my group eventually said, "How did you make that happen?"
Sure, I think it's all fixed.
Fishing wire, really? Are you kidding? I'm ready to run out of this house.
Yeah, usually when I'm talking to people and they give guided tours like you guys do of a haunted location, there's always that one story that either happened to them or just stuck with them, and that's why I asked. And it seems like this is the one that sticks with you.
Many stick with me, but that in particular, that was the most impressive, I feel. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Christy has stories. She's investigated many times.
Yeah, I think my most recent is I was locking up one night. And I always walk through, thank them for allowing the guests to come in and investigate.
Mm-hmm.
Let them know I'm getting ready to turn the lights off and make it quiet so they can enjoy their peace again. And I got to the McClellan side of the house because I do both sides as I get ready to go out and check and make sure nothing's left behind and tidy up the curtains and blankets and stuff. And you'll hear footsteps all the time in there. I just blow that off. Well, this one was like walking right at me. I turned around and I was like, all right, good night. Somebody will catch up tomorrow. Because you figure I'm in there by myself. I think that one was like 4 o'clock in the morning. So I was by myself and I was like, nope, I'm out of here.
Yeah,
you didn't want to stick around at the time.
No.
I was like, I'm out of here.
We have a healthy respect for these spirits.
Now, you mentioned the orphanage. Is that another haunted location you guys manage?
Yes, indeed it is. The Soldiers Homestead Orphanage. That building was built in 1834. And by the way, Jenny was built in 1842.
All right, so the orphanage is a little older than the Jenny Wade house.
Correct. What will happen? It will be a private residence until after the battle. Obviously, you see how many casualties there were here. Think about all the other battles as well. A group of investors from Philadelphia will decide to get together, and this was led by Dr. John Francis Bournes. Decide there's a need for these orphanages. He will raise money and open the first one right here in Gettysburg. When it opens in 1865, everything is perfect. The children are well fed, well clothed, well educated. There was a beloved staff member by the name of Felinda Humiston. Children absolutely adored this woman. However, a minister will be passing through town. Their eyes meet. They end up marrying. So they will, through a series of other things that had happened, their headmistress had also resigned. They will bring a new headmistress in around the same time. Her name is Rosa J. Carmichael, but she preferred to be called Miss Rosa. Everything will change at that orphanage.
As I say, just from hearing different ghost stories from the Gettysburg area, that name just rings a bell.
Yes, I imagine it does. The crimes that she will commit against those children are spoken of to this very day. What she will do, she seemed to like to pick on the youngest. She would put them into large barrels or vats of freezing cold water, tie their little hands to the rim so that if their legs gave out, they would not slide in and drown. She was also notorious. In the summertime, there was an area behind the orphanage where the outhouses were. She would tie the children to fences. They said that wild dogs would be licking the sweat for their legs and biting them. The outhouses, summer and winter. She would lock the small children in these outhouses, sometimes for days at a time. I know everyone has had the pleasure at some point of using a modern-day porta potty.
Mm-hmm.
Think of these old outhouses that are not clean, and the heat and the nastiness and what these poor children endured.
Yeah, that's not a pleasant experience in the absolute least.
Horrific, absolutely horrific. I feel her greatest crime will be in the cellar of that building. She will have an area excavated in the cellar. It's very small. It's 8 feet long, 4 feet high, 5 feet wide. It's dirt behind a fieldstone. She will put, again, the smallest of children into what will be called the pit or the dungeon. You see, some of these children will write letters after their stay at the orphanage. There's also a newspaper article from one of the older boys who escaped. We know it exists. We even have a drawing of this pit or dungeon. She would shackle them in there. It is pitch dark, no food. There's really not much ventilation down there, if any. And their letters tell us rats were nibbling on their little fingers and toes. Can you imagine?
No, I can't even imagine something like that, no.
No. What will finally bring her to trial leads again back to those outhouses. It is Christmas night, 1876. 2 townspeople that lived near the orphanage were coming back from downtown after festivities. They're passing by where the outhouses are. They hear hysterical crying of what sounds like a small child. They investigate, realize there's an outhouse that is locked from the outside. They will free 6-year-old Georgie London. This poor boy is nearly frostbitten. He is hungry. He can't even tell them how long he has been locked in this outhouse in the snow and frigid weather.
Yeah, I was going to say, if it's Christmas, I'm sure it was cold out.
It was horrific, yes. The weather was terrible. Well, he finally gets out the words orphan when they ask where he lives. And then they said, son, can we take you somewhere to our home? Shakes his head, said Miss Rosa. So obviously we know who had meted out that punishment.
Yep.
They will take him home. He will begin to talk. It will be enough evidence to finally take this woman to trial. She will be convicted of abuse only in the case of Georgie London, even though the townspeople know there's rumors that some of the orphans have died under her reign as headmistress. And they're also aware of the punishments.
With all that abuse happening at that location, has there been a lot of paranormal activity?
Oh, I cannot even tell you. Actually, this is a lot of debate on this issue. Some of us say the Jenny Wade is more active. Many believe that the orphanage is absolutely, but it is a much darker energy. I'm sure.
It's very heavy when you go in there.
Yeah, I could imagine.
When you go to the cellar.
Yes. The cellar just, how you get
energy.
chills up your spine? Mm-hmm. I've had people cry. They just can't stand to be in there. I think there are people who are sensitives. Mm-hmm. So, yes, we have a lot of sightings. We hear things. We see things.
Get touched. I always get touched when I'm in there.
Yes. Touch is very common.
It's like a gentle touch, though. It's more like a child's touch.
I was going to ask, is it like a touch would be like lower on your body, like on your legs, since you're dealing with children, probably?
It is. Usually my arms, they'll touch when I'm there. Or if I'm sitting, they'll come up like to my shoulders and touch.
Yes. It's on my tours. I always tell folks, please do not smack the person you are with thinking they're trying to scare you, because most likely it's one of our spirits. It happens that frequently.
Now, being guides at that property, have you guys, like I asked before, had any stories that really stuck with you over the years there at this property?
I do. I'll just tell you about my first encounter, which was almost my last. I was talked in to portraying Rosa Carmichael herself. I am first person as a ghost, dressed as Rosa would have dressed in that time period. I'm not really good with this. I'm a ghost guide that's afraid of the dark. There you have it. So, it's my first tour. When you are in a long skirt, you are keenly aware of everything around you. People place toys on a small table in the center of that cellar for the children to play with when we're not there. The balls are notorious for moving around. I'm telling you, there was nothing there. As soon as I turn out the lights, walk back towards the guest, boom. One of the balls slams into the toe of my boot. That was about it for me. Back up the steps, I was ready to go. Since then, the smells, one evening, all of a sudden it smelled like that basement was on fire. We were well alarmed. We were the only ones in the house. And I knew it could not be on fire. An alarm would have gone off. I swear to you, it smelled like it was burning. There was a fire in that cellar, many, many, many years ago. Mm-hmm. So I think probably it was a residual haunting.
Yeah, that backstory there would explain it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And there are many, many, many more stories where that came from. We have a man that likes to peek out. We do see the children there, too, as well as at the Jenny Wade house. It is rumored that the orphans would escape Miss Rosa, if only for an hour of comfort and a warm meal. It is believed that some of them are there to this very day. We're not sure why. unless, again, it's residual. We also have intelligent hauntings, i.e., Jesus shooting off the wall.
Right, right.
Yes, that was highly intelligent.
Now, between the two properties, I know the Jenny Wade house, the shot that killed Jenny happened in July. Is there any time of the year that you see more activity than others?
Yes. Something interesting that has happened all over Gettysburg forever. The spirits that remain here seem to trigger objects. Obviously, you're familiar.
Sure.
When the reenactors are here and they're dressed the way they would have been dressed, there are many, many encounters the reenactors have talked about for many, many years.
That, or when they have their ammunition demonstrations, and
yes,
like the more activity that resembles what went on during the battle, the more active the buildings are.
Correct. So I'm going to say the anniversary of the battle appears to be one of your most active times. Yeah. Although, really, they don't slow down too much.
Right, it kind of keeps it constant, just a little peak there.
Around in period clothing.
Yes, yeah, we have that here. So, yes.
Well, I'd like to thank you guys for joining us tonight. You had some very interesting stories on two of the, I would probably have to say, most haunted locations in the town.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we pride ourselves on it, and we love for people to come and visit. We do offer folks to have the chance to do their own private investigations. They can rent the houses out. We also give lots of great information on our tours, the historic information, as well as the paranormal.
Mm-hmm.
Well, once again, I'd like to thank you guys for joining us this evening, and you really had some great information, historical and paranormal.
Well, thank you for letting us share our stories.
Thank you for having us.
Yep,
yes.
You are very welcome. Thank you for listening to The Creepy Side of America. If you would like some more information on the Ghostly Images of Gettysburg, or maybe you would like some more information on an upcoming tour, you can visit them online at ghoslyimages.net.
Do you have a spooky story or an idea for an upcoming episode? Email us at ghost@wnep.com.
Until next time, enjoy the creepy side of America.
Ooh.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Creepy Side of America. If you have any ideas or topic suggestions for an upcoming episode, send them to ghost@wnep.com. We're dying to hear from you.